Hi friends, I'm Les Mood, your host. Welcome to the Destination for Innovation series brought to you by the City of Bakersfield and GreenTech Network. Today, we're at CSUB, Cal State University Bakersfield, with a special guest. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Well, it's nice to be back at Cal State, of course.
Welcome back.
Yeah, I'll come back any day I can. You know, it's a good time. Beautiful trees and scenery, by the way. It was a hard choice between the laboratory here and outdoors. Can you share a little bit about yourself and maybe something that your colleagues or the world doesn't know about you?
Sure. So I'm from Indiana originally, so I'm actually not a Kern County native. I've been here almost 10 years now, but it's been a very interesting path between like birth and now. So grew up in Terre Haute, Indiana, which is a small town. It's actually most famous for Indiana State University and where Larry Bird went to college. After Indiana, I basically moved to Stanford for undergrad, majored in German history, which I think is something a lot of people around here don't know because I work on tech projects and entrepreneurship projects these days, not German history. After that, did a Fulbright in Munich for a year, focused on German history, and then basically worked on some startup with my dad, worked in venture management consulting for a while, did an MBA, worked in the music business for a long time, both in big companies and startups. Over the course of that time, most of the time was in Germany and Brazil, actually not the United States. After the music tour, basically, of Germany and Brazil, came back here, did some headhunting for a little while to get back on my feet. And then after another startup that didn't quite work, went back, did a PhD, and I've been here for the last 10 years.
Wow, 10 years and a long journey. Where would you say the journey began, with what you're doing now?
Well, the journey began now watching my dad be an entrepreneur, like everything about my attitude towards entrepreneurship and innovation and value creation, it all came from watching my dad be a nonconformist. He was a chemist originally, but just didn't quite fit in the corporate culture at International Mineral and Chemical is where he was. So he did a software startup in the early 80s that was sort of a competitor or a precursor to Excel and Lotus 123. Didn't establish itself as well as the other things. So over the course of my life, he's basically been a serial struggling entrepreneur. He never really made it big, but that was a big part of me, doing what I do today. And from that, there's been a lot of other influences, but I'd say the start was really watching my dad.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of today, what are you doing to make the world a better place?
I try to do a lot of different things, Les. Try to make the world a better place. I'm going to go with a economic and, technology related thing first, and then I'll swing back to some more venture related things. I think the biggest thing I'm trying to do today to make the world a better place is have empathy, have empathy for other people, and recognize that we're all in this together. The whole human race is on the same team, and see what I can learn from other people and how I can support them. So I think attitudinally doing that, doing a little bit of meditation is probably transcendentally the best thing I'm doing for make the world a better place. More concretely, I'm trying to help build ventures and help empower entrepreneurs on this campus and around the community to become their best selves. There's some standard things we do that we might get into in some of the other questions, but really, over the last year, we've helped a little over 20 ventures. The top few of those ventures have generated about $900,000 worth of revenues in the last year, about $150,000 worth of friend and family investment. There's been 2 of those that got grant funding from the CalSeed program for $150,000 each. But really, when it comes down to it, I take all my experience and I try to help individual entrepreneurs to think better, organize better, act better. I'm not running the ventures myself, but I try and advise as well as I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in your career advising and the last few years you mentioned, in this together, there's been the pandemic. Speaking of struggles, could you share some struggles and maybe some triumphs in your career that you've seen that others could learn from?
Sure. I'd say, first of all, struggles in life in general, like my career, but also just life in general. I went through a lot of really tough depression a couple times in life. For a couple of years at Stanford, and then a couple of years here earlier in my career at Cal State Bakersfield. And honestly, it's at Stanford, it was all about, I was a big fish in a small pond back in Indiana, and Stanford's the best of the best. And getting there at 17, it did a number on my ego, no longer being the best. I went to Stanford and I'm slightly below average. So took a while to figure out how am I unique, like what is my individual contribution in the world and my little path through life, and it took about 2 years to get past that. But once I stopped comparing myself to others and measuring myself by my own measuring stick, it got a lot better. And then here, it was a sort of confluence of factors. Like my dad developed Parkinson's and has just been going downhill steadily. I was a little bit frustrated and probably, I would say, had a bad attitude work-wise, that like I thought the world revolved around me and my ideas a little bit too much. And I went through a tough breakup romantically. So those three things together that led to a lot of disillusionment for about 2 years, but really just fixing the problems that originally led to that, like having a better relationship with the former significant other, getting accustomed to taking care of the new version of my dad, and like I said, empathy, like trying to listen, having some freaking humility around here and listening to my colleagues better. That's those two triumphs, I think both, those are the toughest times of my life, and they both in one way or another had to deal with looking inside, finding a way to measure myself that did not depend on or define itself from other people.
Wow, that's really powerful. Empathy and reflection and the trifecta that you went through obviously can be powerful all at once. In other ways, do you have some advice that you would like to share? Maybe it's for students, maybe it's for the community.
I do. I have whether you're an entrepreneur or not, I teach all of my students, and I try to evangelize a bit about 6 behaviors that I think everybody should do. If you do these 6 behaviors, it's only a matter of time until you're successful in life. As an entrepreneur, in your career, as a student, as a parent, whatever. Take initiative, think outside the box, and solve problems while remaining relentlessly diligent, open-mindedly humble, and transparently cooperative. You do those 6 things, it's only a matter of time until you might have some bad luck, you might have some roadblocks in your way, but they will not keep you down if you do those 6 things.
Where did you compile this list?
My own life from the last 52 years. I think I came up with that list about 3-4 years ago, just to try and distill things down to teaching my students better. But really, that's the net result of 50 years of life.
Awesome, amazing. So this next part of the conversation is more of a thought experiment.
Okay.
In life we see a lot of hurdles and roadblocks. We're going to kind of cast those away, think about what the possibilities are. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first question is, what is some low-hanging fruit that people can bite into to make the world a better place?
Right now?
Sure.
Okay. Honestly, I would say, in general, the the low-hanging fruit is a combination of getting real and getting realistic with where you're at and what the next obvious step is in your own life, and pushing yourself to dream big. Like as a general model, I would say that I can talk to anybody and ask them a few questions about where they're at right now and what their goals are in life, and I can tell them what the next low-hanging fruit is. So it's all about understanding where you're at, understanding what you want, and then knowing how to pick the next thing. I think most people either get paralyzed by trying to figure out what's the next step, and they do nothing, or they try to bite off more than they can chew, and then they get disillusioned when they can't get it done. It's a balancing act between dreaming big and acting small. I think specific examples of low-hanging fruit of people I'm working with right now, there's a business that I've worked with that just about $1 million worth of sales. They got some really nice technology. They had some like financial struggles last year, and they're not looking beyond the financial struggles. They're not looking to actually register patents on some of the technologies they've developed for the ag sector. They're paralyzed by looking at the financial situation, and they're not moving forward the patents, which you can go bankrupt, and those patents will still be valuable a couple years from now. It's a good investment of time and energy, and it's not getting done. I think for our whole like relationship between the west side of Kern County and the aerospace sector, I'll say the first piece of low-hanging fruit is just to have like the key engineers out there and our faculty talk on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. There's so much of an opportunity for working together that doesn't happen because people live in silos. We're trying to break that down, and we're having some success right now, but there's so much low-hanging fruit that would just happen from talking. And I think on a more whimsical note, you live in Kern County, it's a pain in the ass to like drive from the west side to the east side of the Tehachapi Mountains and vice versa. I think we need a Joby. You know what that is?
Oh yeah, we need some VTOLs.
They're testing out at Edwards anyway. Like, let's have one Joby for shuttling people back and forth between Bakersfield and the various cities in East Kern. It's a perfect proof of concept for what the vehicle is supposed to be doing as a service and a benefit for society, and it would help us with our own aerospace sector. There's another piece of low-hanging fruit. I think it would be awesome to just get, if anybody from Joby is listening, like one vehicle to shuttle people back and forth would make a huge difference for the relationship between East and West Kern for the aerospace sector.
Yeah, workforce
There's
development.
Some other stuff I can talk about for that. Yeah. Those are a couple good examples.
Absolutely, and I could imagine tourism would do really well in Kern County with some Jobies flying around, so that'd be great.
I don't know, like tourism with the Joby is probably going to be a little bit like tourism with Virgin Galactic right now. The issue is like a bottleneck in like the number of seats and then how often you can fly. Like we need those seats to shuttle engineers and faculty and a couple of like key students that are working on projects and going into careers out there. We need to shuttle those people. We honestly should not be putting the tourists on the Jobies, but it'll certainly look cool for the tourists to have the Jobies flying around.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. So in terms of some of the bigger challenges society faces, what are some of those that we shouldn't ignore that we should also bite into?
I go back to empathy, like people don't have enough empathy these days. And I think people don't dream big enough these days. Like if there's two things that would make society better in general, it would be to encourage everybody. Like whoever beat you down and told you that you shouldn't dream before, they were wrong. They had their own reasons. Like they probably got beat up by life themselves, but dreaming is a good thing, not a foolish thing. and then just having empathy. There's so much like vitriol in our society right now, especially in the United States, but all over the world. Like, and my girlfriend and I went on vacation to Southeast Asia last year, and like I sort of consider myself a citizen of the world at this point. I'm very proud of the United States, and there's certain things that we do here that are cutting edge for the history of society in the world. But we're not perfect. And we got a lot of like blemishes that we could make better here. And I really was amazed going to Southeast Asia at human kindness. You know, like there's just human kindness everywhere. Problem solving, people trying to figure out how to help us do whatever we wanted to do. There's so little human kindness in the United States right now. We need to change that.
I've been told that by others that kindness is a great solution for a better world. In terms of community, what role do you see community playing in a better world?
How do you find a community in this case?
It's so broad, but it could be online, it could be in person, it could be like Bakersfield itself. Yeah.
Okay. I would say, honestly, at that level, I don't have a lot of experience, first of all, at sort of being a leader at a community level. But I would think one of the things that always, I spent a period of time, two different times in LA. And there's some good things about LA, but LA has no soul, in my opinion. Like LA is full of 4 million individual people out for themselves. It has no sense of community. And I think to the extent to which we as Bakersfield and Kern County could just encourage everybody here, like Kern County is not second place. Kern County is not like the place you drive by on the 5 between the Bay Area and the LA Basin. Kern County is the shit. Excuse me, you can bleep that out if you want, but Kern County has an amazing confluence of aerospace, energy, and agriculture, globally leading industries in close geographic proximity. Texas has got the same things, but they're spread out. Florida's got amazing energy. Florida's got amazing agriculture and aerospace. They don't have the energy assets that we have out here. It's a very rare trifecta of having those three things in the same place. And I think for a long time, Kern County has not played to its strengths. We've tried to be the redheaded stepchild to the Bay Area or LA, rather than letting LA and the Bay Area wish they were us. And I think there's some other things structurally, program-wise, that I think I could suggest for the community. But just at a branding level, I think encouraging everybody to be proud of what we have here, rather than compare it to wherever else.
Absolutely. In terms of, we have this energy transition or transformation, evolution, as some might call it, going on. Do you see a way for that to be inclusive or just and equitable? How do we involve the most amount of people? And to your point about, making recommendations for the community.
When it specifically comes to energy transition, I'm going to say something for your podcast that will not be popular in Sacramento, but Sacramento, I am a pretty middle of the road person politically. I grew up as a lifelong Democrat, but I've become quite alienated from the Democratic Party over time. And it's noble to try and draw a line in the sand about fossil fuels. It's completely wrong-headed the way we're implementing it right now. And I'd say for energy transition, we're basically cutting our own domestic production and just increasing our imports from Ecuador. That actually does more damage to the environment rather than less. But I understand. It's actually noble to draw a line in the sand, and I admire them for that, but it's being implemented, I think, in the wrong way. So when we talk about including everyone, I think the issue for solving the problem that nobody has talked about, the elephant in the room, look at these lights, look at these cameras, look at these computers. Like, none of them would run without electricity. Like, the demand side of the equation is not being addressed. And I think that's really hard because we all have our habits. Like, nobody wants to give up the lights in their house. Nobody wants to, like, work less time on their computer each day. But when you look at how an energy transition is going to impact everybody and how we're actually going to succeed at it, because right now, we're right on our way to, like, global warming. Like, it's not, the stuff we're doing right now is not enough. But it's never going to be enough unless you address the demand side. And the demand side is really hard to address. But I think, first and foremost, I think everybody developing a personal, like, usage statement of their energy usage, would go a long way in people starting to understand the scale of the problem. There's plenty of ways to, like, talk about the supply side, and how to make sure that if we continue to damage the earth in a certain way, like, what are some equitable solutions for the people that are most affected? I could talk about that a little bit too, but honestly, the thing I want to mention first is the demand side. It's the thing nobody's talking about, and it's actually the heart of the problem.
Yeah, actually, it may be more equitable to focus in terms of technology or programs on the demand side, which everyone is a part of. So, yeah. In terms of, Bakersfield and this region, and you had highlighted earlier water, energy, ag, these, this confluence of technologies. What is it about Bakersfield, or how do you see Bakersfield as the destination for innovation?
Well, honestly, it's those three industries. My personal favorite is our aerospace sector, which doesn't get a lot of press on this side of the mountains, but for everybody in the aerospace industry worldwide, East Kern is known as the center of the aerospace testing universe. There's some path-dependent history there that you can't replicate anywhere else in the world. Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier right here. Like, all of the engines for the Apollo programs and the Mercury and Gemini programs were tested right here. Virgin Galactic went to space right here with Spaceship One before they started doing tourist flights. NOC-WD, the Navy at China Lake developed the Sidewinder, Trident, and Tomahawk missiles here. There's a tradition of aerospace innovation here that you can't replicate somewhere else. Now, you don't necessarily, traditionally don't go so far, and that's why we're trying to work so hard on the workforce development pipeline right now. Like, people who are from Kern County, people know that live here, they don't leave very much. They like it here. They like to stay connected to their families. The problem that our aerospace sector out there has for all of the cool innovation that they do, they have a terrible problem with retention. It's sort of like the cartoon movie Madagascar, when the penguins get to the South Pole and there's a blizzard, and one of them says, "This sucks," and then they go back to Madagascar. That's the way a lot of kids from MIT or Stanford or University of Chicago or other major engineering programs feel about East Kern. It's kind of like going to the South Pole. And we could do a lot to increase quality of life, nightlife and weekend activity opportunities in East Kern. But for the stability of innovation, what we really need to do is be encouraging engineers from this side of the mountains to be developing careers on that side of the mountains. So I think history is one thing. Just geographic position. Like we happen to be in the perfect place for growing nut trees. It's hard to find the right location to grow nut trees. We're not the only place in the world that can grow them, but this is arguably the number one place to grow nut trees in the whole world. And we just happen to have oil, We also have wonderful wind currents that go over the mountains, and it's a desert, so we got a hell of a lot of sun. I think, why is it the destination for innovation? Because those resources are hard to duplicate. We have the resources, we just aren't leveraging them, and we're not being proud of them. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have a lot to be proud of and a lot of resources, and including you as a resource. And so in terms of people reaching you, whether it be workforce development, students, how can people reach you?
Well, honestly, at some point, somebody's going to stalk me and I'm going to stop doing this, but the easiest way is my cell phone number, 213-400-0829. I'm very busy, so if I miss you, leave me a voicemail and I'll call you back. But I'm always happy for anybody to give me a call and just say, hey, I got this idea. I have this goal. I have this problem. And I'll try to help solve them. Email is jwoods7, JWOODS and the number 7 at CSUB.edu. I also have a nonprofit that I started a couple of years ago with a couple other community members. So you can alternately reach me at my personal email address, jeremy.allen.woods@gmail, or Jeremy at aerospacevalleyfutures.com. That's the name of the not-for-profit. So any way that anybody wants to, let's make Kern County bigger and better every day.
Absolutely. Well, every day, thanks for all you do, and thanks for taking the time to spend with us on the Destination for Innovation.
Thanks. It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us on the Destination for Innovation. Be sure to connect, collaborate, and create with Jeremy, and we will see you soon.